Broncos country, Mahi salute. What is going on? It is the Bo Nix era officially today. Super pumped up about the news. It's one of those pieces of news where like you're not surprised, but you just like to hear it, right? It feels good. So pull out your number 10 jerseys and let's get this going. Guys, if it's not your first time on this channel, I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. If you are new to here, check some of the videos out, man. If you guys are big Bronco fans, NFL fans in general, you like Denver sports, you love fantasy football, you're going to love some of the stuff we got. So hit that subscribe button and like the video. It'll really help me out. And interact with me on the comments. I'd love to get you guys on the show anytime y'all want to talk about something. So much appreciated in advance. Guys, all right, as we look forward, as we begin the Bo Nix era, and we're kind of looking ahead, is there anything that they can do within that quarterback room that would help or hurt, or maybe it's neutral in terms of setting up Bo Nix for the most success, right? I personally, right now, I'm a big fan of this room with Stidham and Zach Wilson behind him. But there are some pretty significant salary cap implications that could take place if you were to want to move on from Jarrett Stidham, right? And I would say between the two guys, I genuinely believe with all my heart that Jarrett Stidham is a better backup quarterback. He's a better fit. He's kind of the mold of a backup, right? He was drafted in the middle rounds. He had some opportunities. He showed flashes. He showed that he's good enough to play in spot starts, but he's not going to be a franchise quarterback. I think with Zach Wilson, the narrative is always going to be, oh, he's a second overall pick. He has all this talent, and he might just need a rehab year, and then he can start somewhere else. Or there's always going to be that kind of wondering, the kind of that intrigue about him in that sense. But I think that when you look at Jared Stidham, man, he's a tough dude. He plays with a lot of heart, and his teammates love him. And I just feel like he's somebody that would really embraces that backup role. Not saying that Zach Wilson wouldn't, but I just think he's better, and especially having the year in Sean Payton's offense under his belt, I think really helps him. But it's really interesting because you listen to Sean Payton talk about Zach Wilson, and you would think that Zach Wilson was his son. He loves the guy. He speaks glowingly about him. And I think it could be one of two things. I think that it could be, Sean Payton either hyping him up to try to get a trade market or something kind of cooking for him, or it can just be a confidence thing where he's like, you know what, you guys still have a chance to battle this out. Or maybe he's trying to hype up Zach Wilson so much to let the other teams know, hey, if you want the other quarterback, come and get him. So interesting stuff. But I mean, I think it's just him being candid. I don't think that there's any kind of, strategy to it. But let's pull it up. Once we look into Jared Stidham's contract, right? Last year, before last season, he signed a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Broncos. And he really only had a cap number of $3 million last year. This year, his cap hit $7 million. So they kind of backloaded the contract. They gave him the signing bonus of $2 million, and so they give him $1 million of it last year and $1 million of it this year, and they give him a roster bonus of $1 million as well, which essentially means that of the $7 million cap hit in total, only $2 million of it is guaranteed. Right? He's got $1 million guaranteed salary this year, and he's got $1 million on the roster bonus, right, which he already hit. So if you part ways with Jarrett Stidham today, you would save $5 million on the cap. That's a pretty significant number. But when you look at it kind of league wide, it's right up there with kind of the upper echelon, starting backup quarterbacks, if you will, right? So just to give you a little bit of some numbers here, Sam Darnold is at 10 million bucks. Even though he's the starter in Minnesota, he was kind of signed to backup. That's the upper echelon backup deal. Same with Gardner Minshew, right? Gardner Minshew's at $8 million a year. He was signed to potentially be the backup, but he'll start this year and be a backup moving forward. Jacoby Brissett's at 7.8 million. Stidham's at 7 this year. Mariota's at 6 million, and Mike White's at 5.2 million. And all of those numbers are average annual salaries. So like the average per year. So if you factor that in, Stidham's actually at 5 million. So he's actually below guys like Marcus Mariota and Mike White. So from a value standpoint, his contract actually makes a lot of sense with where the market is, given what he is to the team. The Broncos do also have the benefit of not really allocating a lot of money to the quarterback room now, so they can, between Zach Wilson and Jared and Bo Nix and Jared Stidham, they're like about 10 million bucks against the cap this year. So it's not much overall when you look at it, but a team that just ate $55 million in dead cap from the Russ move has got to eat another $38 million next year. Every few million bucks counts, right? And so those are some things that the Broncos have to think about in this, when they're trimming the roster down to 53, is does salary cap take any kind of a factor, right? We talked a little bit about DJ Jones. DJ Jones is somebody that, $13 million against the cap, you can save 10. Um, I don't think they're ultimately gonna do it because I think he plays a more important role. But with Jared Stidham, when you look at it, you can go about it in a couple different ways. You can look at it like, hey, we love this kid. He's great for the locker room. He's a really good backup. We got a lot of faith in him if we have to rely on him. At that point, I would look at extending him, and I would look at extending him now because the market rate for him is going to be pretty high. But you could also make the same argument for somebody like a Zach Wilson, right? Because Zach Wilson is someone that is probably just going to be in Denver for a year, and next year they're not going to really have any interest in bringing him in as a backup. So both Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson next year are going to be unrestricted free agents. Can you retain any one of them? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it just becomes too expensive to pay for backup. So those are some things you have to look at too, right? Is that as a GM of the team, the front office is always looking at the now and the later. And so if you're going to get rid of Jarrett Stidham, you got to look at maybe extending Zach Wilson so you keep him here for a couple years. But that wouldn't really make a lot of sense. I don't even think Zach Wilson would necessarily want that because he might want bigger money later on. So if it was me and I was running this team, I would say, you know what? Why not just add some value towards the end of Jared Stidham's contract? Maybe add a year or two, push the money down the line. You want to give yourself some cap relief, some cap flexibility this year, or more importantly, some cap flexibility next year. You still got him under contract for the next couple of years, and really you feel solid with that room because backup. They say backup quarterback's the most important position outside of the starting quarterback, right? Because you never know. So just some interesting things there to take into account. Most definitely. I'm definitely curious about what it is that you guys think. Do you think Jarrett Stidham is worth being on this team? And it's important too because the Broncos are most likely going to keep three uh, quarterbacks on the team this year, in my opinion. A, because I think they like the room, and B, because with that new rule, like we had discussed, you can activate three quarterbacks on game day without it counting against the starting 48. And that's a big advantage. And it's kind of a free pass. It's like, why not do it? But if you get rid of Jared Stidham, you can have the cap. You can have you know some decent cap relief at 5 million bucks to maybe use down the road if you need to get a veteran or maybe one of these veteran players that you really like ends up getting cut. Or you can look at it like, hey, by getting rid of one of those two quarterbacks and only having two quarterbacks, maybe now a guy like Brandon Johnson makes the team, or Demontre Jacobs makes the team, or any one of those younger, like Keydron Smith ends up making the team, right? So these are all different factors that you got to take in. It's not just the salary cap situation. It's got a lot more to do with that. Either one of these quarterbacks, if you flat out cut them, they're not going to make it through waivers to get back onto the practice squad. So if you're getting rid of them, you're getting rid of them. So in my opinion, you either trade or you keep or you extend. And if it was me and I was George Payton in this particular situation, I would approach Jarrett Stidham with some sort of an extension just to get him on under contract for one more year. Because you don't want to be in the position next offseason where you're looking for a backup quarterback or anything like that. Um, unless you can get a draft pick from a team, then that changes everything, right? That changes everything as a whole. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I think it's important for the room. The starting quarterback, especially a rookie, is always going to benefit and lean on those veteran guys. So if they got a good thing going in this quarterback room, then they should keep everything status quo. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What would you do with Jarrett Stidham in the backup role? Because it might not seem that relevant now. It's like just focus on Bo Nix, but you never know. And if it ever comes to the point where we need to rely on one of these two guys, which hopefully we don't, you are, there's going to be a lot of stock in it. So peace out, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments again, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Spend time with those people that you love the most, and till next time, peace.